Hey friends, welcome back. Let's talk about Kody Brown's so-called apology tour on the show. Honestly, it's more about boosting his own ego and controlling the narrative than anything genuine. He's trying to look like a better person, maybe even soften some of the backlash from all of us talking about his show online. But here's the thing, his apology isn't landing, and it's not going to. Why? Because his kids aren't buying it. According to Mckelty and Tony, Kody's behavior on sister wives actually causes half the problems. Why? Because he's laser-focused on protecting Robyn, playing the bad guy himself to cover for her missteps. On top of that, he's essentially saying he won't have a relationship with his kids unless they also have a relationship with Robyn. That's a hard boundary that's nearly impossible to overcome. Here's an interesting twist. Mckelty and Tony were watching Special Forces, and Mckelty noticed something about Kody. On that show, he seemed more like her dad. Now, don't get me wrong, Kody can be off-putting. Mckelty admits he doesn't particularly like working with women or respecting them, and that's still very much part of who he is. But she also believes that part of the reason he acts the way he usually does on Sister Wives is because Robyn is there, influencing him. She said something along the lines of, "Anything he says on Special Forces, I feel like I should take more to heart. It feels more like Dad than anything he says outside of that show." Basically, the takeaway is this. Could the Kody we see on Special Forces be a truer version of him than the one we see on Sister Wives, where his ego is always front and center, and he's trying to play the villain to protect himself and Robyn? Spicy take, right? But it does make you wonder. Without Robyn around, without his usual audience of kids and family, Kody doesn't have to impress anyone except himself. He's only accountable to staff and, well, himself. That changes how he behaves. Tony's insight confirms it. On the show, Kody often covers for Robyn, taking the blame for things she's done. Mckelty noticed that on Special Forces, he seemed more authentic, more like himself, and less like the Kody who's always trying to navigate Robyn's high demands. Their relationship is codependent. He refuses relationships with anyone who doesn't also accept Robyn. On Special Forces, though, he actually took accountability. He admitted fault regarding his kids. But as soon as he got back and spoke to Robyn, the story shifted completely. On the show, Robyn tells him he doesn't need to apologize for things said in the heat of the moment, saying he's being too hard on himself. And when the conversation turns to therapy or reconnecting with the kids, she basically says, "If you believe these relationships have value, yes." Which, wow, that's rough, right? Kids should always have inherent value to their parents. Yet Robyn places conditional value on them, and then ties that value to whether or not they maintain a relationship with her.
And honestly, I think Robyn knows exactly what she's doing. She realizes that because the kids are likely to reject her, Kody won't maintain a relationship with them. It's a kind of control, subtle but powerful. Mckelty's frustration with her dad isn't just about him. It's also tied up with her issues with Robyn. About 11 days ago, she shared on Patreon what's really going on between Robyn, Kody, and the kids from his other wives. And here's the hard truth. There are decades of hurt, misunderstandings, and just plain anger baked into these relationships. You can't just fix that with a simple reach out or make an effort. It's more complicated than that. Years of unresolved problems and pain don't dissolve overnight. You need consistent actions, accountability, and effort, not just words. On the surface, Robyn might say, "Yes, make an effort with your kids, I support it." And while she's saying that, there's a lot more underneath. To really repair these relationships, both Kody and Robyn have to be held accountable, and what that looks like can be different for each child. As I mentioned last week, one conversation doesn't automatically restore a relationship. Maddie made this really clear in a recent episode. She said she would accept an apology from Kody, but that doesn't mean she's ready to let him back into her life. For her, trust has to be rebuilt through consistent follow-through. He has to actually show up and prove that he's committed. And Maddie seems pretty confident he won't do that. Why? Well, Kody's life is complicated, to say the least. He has 18 children, and he's notoriously inconsistent with all of them. When they were growing up, he wasn't always present. Janelle even left him for 5 years. Many of these kids grew up without a dad around, which means there's often no strong bond to begin with. Kody has admitted as much. He simply hasn't bonded with many of his children. And when you layer all of this together, multiple kids in a short time, multiple partners who are often at odds, severe poverty, and Kody working long stretches away from home, selling Schwann's ice cream, later working in signs, it's easy to see why those connections never fully formed. Maddie has even shared that at 6 years old, she was helping her mom with diapers and caring for her siblings. That's a heavy responsibility for such a young child, and it was thrust on her because her dad wasn't there. So when Kody has never really bonded with these kids, he doesn't see the value in having a relationship with them now. For him, it's easier to emotionally distance himself, to look at them almost as if they're not fully human, because the connection was never built in the first place.
And as Mckelty pointed out, when you have that kind of trauma swirling in the background, years of hurt, confusion, and broken bonds, it complicates everything. A lot of those problems tie back to Robyn, because Kody chose her over everyone else. He left the other kids behind, abandoned them, and made his loyalty to Robyn the ultimate priority. That's a hard pill to swallow. Think about it. Having a partner make your relationship with your kids conditional on whether they like her, that's just not right. There are always going to be people in your life that you or your partner may not get along with, and it shouldn't block you from having a connection with your family. But that's exactly what Robyn does, and Kody goes along with it. Here's an important clip from Tony responding to a recent episode where Robyn told Kody it was important for the kids to reconnect with him and also have a relationship with her. Tony's take is really telling. He basically says, there's a clear line for a lot of us here. A relationship with Dad might heal some wounds, but a relationship with her? That probably doesn't help. And the way Kody interprets her words internally, he ends up feeling trapped. He thinks, I want a relationship with my kids, but you're blocking it, so I don't know what to do. And then he just doesn't move forward. Exactly. Because with Kody, it's always a package deal. You can't separate him from Robyn. That's not what she's explicitly saying, but that's how Kody hears it. He's fiercely protective of her and so desperate to keep their relationship intact that it overshadows everything else. Think about this. Robyn knows how Kody thinks. She knows that when she says it's important the kids have a relationship with her too, he interprets that as, if they won't have a relationship with Robyn, they won't have a relationship with me. If she knows the kids don't want to connect with her, and she also doesn't want anything to do with them, she's essentially making the choice for him. In other words, she's manipulating the situation to get exactly what she wants. Tony doesn't seem to think Robyn is doing this intentionally, but based on how she talks about influencing Kody on the show, it seems clear she's very aware of her power over him. Kody in this dynamic comes across as a narcissist, but not the classic kind. He's the type who molds himself to whoever he's with at the moment. It's almost sociopathic in a sense. He tells people what they want to hear, does what they want, and then shifts to the next person and does it all over again. When he's away from Robyn, he acts more like himself, but with Robyn, he mirrors her. He takes on her personality because he struggles with his own sense of self. I'm not a psychologist, but it's clear that Kody tends to engulf himself in whoever he's partnered with at the time. That's not uncommon for someone with narcissistic tendencies. They often lack a solid identity of their own. And that's why Robyn is able to pull the strings. She knows exactly what to say and how to behave to get him to act in her favor. If she plays the victim, sets conditions on the kids' relationships, and manipulates the situation knowing the kids don't want to engage with her, Kody won't push. It'll feel pointless and he won't even try. Mckelty and Tony make it clear that many of Kody's kids refuse to have a relationship with Robyn because of her manipulations, her games, and the way she pits people against each other. And in polygamy, it's often easier to blame the woman than the man, but the dynamics here are complex, and Robyn's influence is undeniable.
I also think a lot of the blame gets placed on Robyn, and sometimes that's fair, but other times it's not. Kody deserves much of it, because at the end of the day, he's the man in the situation. In polygamy, it's common for people to point fingers at the woman. They're often conditioned from a young age not to speak negatively about their father, the one who holds the priesthood, the authority figure. So blaming the woman becomes the easier path. Yes, Robyn has her share of responsibility here, but ultimately, Kody is the one who has to make the choices. If he allows a woman to come between him and his kids, that's on him. And sadly, he's not the first father to walk away from a family, leaving children behind while pursuing a new life. With narcissistic tendencies and polygamy dynamics, kids often get left out in the cold, especially if their parent favored another partner. Polygamy is tough. It's tough on the kids, it's tough on the women, and while people are often hard on Robyn, and sometimes she does deserve it, the reality is Kody bears the ultimate responsibility. Mckelty summed it up well. There are just too many years of pain and hurt stacked up. Robyn, as a partner, is toxic, manipulative, unstable, and driven by fear and paranoia. She and Kody feed off each other's worst traits, creating chaos wherever they go. If you spoke to Preston's family, her ex-husband,
They'd probably tell you, "We knew this would happen." People who knew Robyn beforehand saw the pattern. She's caused upheaval before, and she'll do it again. But again, Kody is not blameless. His actions, his choices, his inability to stand up for his kids, those are on him. Which brings us back to his so-called apology tour. It's not going to work. The kids don't want a relationship with him because one apology can't erase the past, and Kody won't change the future, especially when Robyn is controlling the situation. So what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed, and hit that bell so you never miss an update. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.